Good morning, Barkley Brookers. Happy Friday. I have a very special story for you today. It is called Finding Winnie, and this won the Caldecott Medal a few years ago, which when you get to second grade, we're going to do a whole lesson on the Caldecott, but it's given to a book that has pictures that not only are great pictures, but they fit together with the story in a certain way that they help to tell the story. And so the other wonderful thing about this story is that it is a true story. When I first got this book, I did not know this story. You're going to recognize this main character. You might be able to puzzle out who it is already from the title. The title is Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. It's written by Lindsay Maddock, and it's illustrated by Sophie Blackall. Could you tell me a story? Asked Cole. It's awfully late. It was long past dark and time to be asleep. What kind of a story? You know, a true story. One about a bear. We cuddled up close. I'll do my best, I said. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Harry Colburn. A vegetarian? Said Cole.
Boo.
Bear doesn't like vegetables. A veterinarian. It means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to be when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where the winters are frosty and icicles grow on the inside of your nose. That was just the kind of doctor he was. But a day came when Harry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean, and he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on a train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. The train rolled right through dinner and over the sunset and around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Harry decided to get out and stretch his legs. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby? Said Cole, annoyed. A baby bear. A cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear has lost its mother, he thought, and that man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do. They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said. Love them. Harry thought for a long time, and then he said to himself, there is something special about that bear. He felt inside his pocket and said, I shouldn't. He paced back and forth and said, I can't. But then his heart made up his mind, and he walked up to the trapper and he said, I'll give you $20 for the bear. Is $20 a lot? Asked Cole. Back then, I said, even more than a lot. Captain Colburn, said the colonel on the train as the little bear sniffed at his knees. We're on a journey of thousands of miles heading into the thick of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature? Bear stood straight up on her hind legs as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then, in quite a different voice, he said, Oh, hello. The men of Harry's regiment squeezed by to have a look. I've decided to name her Winnipeg, Harry told them. So we'll never be far from home. Winnie for short. They had a very long way to travel, and they'd already gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. "What do bears eat?" the men wondered. "What don't they eat?" said Harry. "Vegetables," Cole reminded me. "Winnie ate vegetables," I said. "She ate everything except onions. They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and some slop in a dish, but Winnie was still hungry." "How about dessert?" Holding up a bottle of condensed milk, taking the treat in her paws, Winnie lay on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. Harry and Winnie gathered with soldiers from all over Canada on the green fields of Valcartier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that, just so. Soon she was assigned to her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She might have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hid something, could she find it? She could. What if it was farther away? And farther still? Remarkable, he cried. Here she is, finding her way to what they had hidden. In the evenings, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, "I shouldn't." His head said, "I can't." But his heart made up his mind. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together, carrying about 36,000 men, about 7,500 horses, and about one bear named Winnie. When they finally arrived in England, the regiment went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and rained and rained. But Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she tended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. "You'll bring the whole place down," he said with a laugh. She had grown. There they are marching, and here she is. It was winter when the order came. The time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made up his mind. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, "There's somewhere we need to go." Winnie brushed the mud off her nose and nuzzled in close. Harry drove all the way to the big city. "Here we are," said Harry, "the London Zoo." Harry took a deep breath. "Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while," he said. She tilted her head. "We're shipping out to France," he explained. "I have to take care of the horses at the front." She rested her big head against him. "I know you want to come, but it's not safe." Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were warm as sunshine as usual. "There is something you must always remember," Harry said. "It's the most important thing, really. Even if we're apart, I'll always love you. You'll always be my bear." "Is that the end?" "That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story," I said. "But I don't want it to be over," said Cole. "Sometimes," I said, "you have to let one story end so the next one can begin." "How do you know when that will happen?" "You don't," I said, "which is why you should always carry on." This is the layout of the London Zoo there. Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had his bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He'd tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. One day the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terraces there. Right away the boy thought, there is something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right inside her enclosure to play. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to call his stuffed bear. He named it Winnie the Pooh. And the boy was called Cole, said Cole. Maybe you figured this out by now, who the bear is and who the boy is. His name was Christopher Robin Milne. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his own stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the woods behind his house. His father, Alan Alexander Milne, wrote books all about them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh, and there has never been a more beloved bear. But what about Harry? Cole asked. When Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved. And that was all he had ever wanted from the moment they met at the train station in White River. So after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg and his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married and had a son named Fred. Fred had a daughter named Laureen, and Laureen had a daughter named Lindsay, which is me. And then I had a son. And when I saw you, I thought, there is something special about this boy. And so I named you after your great-great-grandfather, Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole. That's me, said Cole in a whisper. That's you. And that's Winnie? Yes, I said, that's Winnie. And it's all true? Sometimes the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big and he said nothing for a long time. And then he hugged his own bear close and let out a yawn that reached far away, and they both turned over and fell asleep. And so I said to you, my friends, that this is a true story. This is my favorite part of the whole book, this part that says album. These are, of course, photographs of photographs, but these are the real photographs of the real people. So this is the real Captain Harry Colburn, who really discovered the bear, the real bear, Winnie. And this is his journal from 1914. And in 1914, the war that was going on there was called World War I. And he really was a soldier in the Canadian Army. And so he kept track of what he did every day. And you can see that on August 24th, right here, if you looked at it really, really, really close, because it's kind of faded, it says that he bought a bear for $20. It's kind of hard to read his handwriting, but it's in there. And then here are some more photographs of the soldiers. Here's Harry and Winnie and some of the soldiers with Winnie. And this picture right here is the picture from the story where the soldiers posed with Winnie, a photograph to send back to their families. And there she is, right in the middle here. I'm going to guess that that's Harry's lap. And there's all the soldiers in Harry's infantry in his brigade. And this is a picture that was made into a statue. And you can find this statue in Winnipeg. That's in Canada, where Harry Colburn was from. And then here is the very real Christopher Robin. He was a real boy from Winnie the Pooh. And that's the real Winnie the Bear in the London Zoo. And they were great friends. And because Winnie had been raised with those soldiers, she really was a very gentle bear, and Christopher Robin really was allowed into her enclosure to play. And so this was a picture of Winnie and Christopher Robin taken in 1925. That was almost 100 years ago, my friends. So long ago. And A.A. Milne is the author of the Winnie the Pooh story. So A.A. Milne would watch Christopher Robin play with his stuffed animal bear, which he named Winnie the Pooh after Winnie the Bear from the London Zoo. And he wrote stories about them using his imagination, which is that thing that we talked about from our Have Fun Molly Lou Mellon story yesterday. And then this is a card. Before we kept computer records, we kept records on cards like this. And this is a card from the London Zoo. And it talks about Winnie the Bear and that she came from White River, Ontario. She was given to the zoo December 1st of 1919. So Harry had her for 5 years before he gave her to the London Zoo. If you remember from his journal, he bought her from that man in 1914. So he had her for 5 years, and then she came to the zoo at 1919. And it has all information about her, that she's an American black bear. And then right here it says that she died on December 5th of 1934, which is a pretty good age for a bear. She was 20 years old. Yeah, pretty cool. Oh, actually, here it says date of arrival, December 9th, 1914. But over here it says December 1st, 1919. How acquired. So I wonder which one. I'll have to get to the bottom of that. See, here it says she began her stay in 1914. I wonder what that date is, December 1st, 1919. I don't know. And here's a real photograph of Lindsay and Cole in 2013, 7 years ago. And this is the author of the story and her real son, Cole. And they really are the granddaughter and great-grandson of Captain Harry Colburn. Some of the best stories are true. So if you are a Winnie the Pooh fan, you can tell me about maybe one of your favorite Winnie the Pooh stories. My very favorite is Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. That's my favorite because I just love it when he gets stuck and they try so hard to get him out and they have to use their bubblegum brains to think of all different ways to get him out. And in the end, he's so excited to just be stuck with all that honey in the honey tree. So yeah, so look for more stories. Have a good day, my friends.